So maybe folks can sit on the side if you want.
Thank you.
Maybe folks can sit on the side if you want.
Oh, that's a good idea. How are you doing? You good? All right.
I will be so much better once this is over, to be honest. I get nervous. You know, normally you have that second screen and all your notes there, and like right above you, and I can just fake it on the camera.
Well, on this year when
It doesn't even like, sometimes I watch the Zen mode, I forget people are even doing But it'll be good.
sorry to have to ask, who do I follow?
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, I love your shirt, by the way. It's going to be. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Okay, welcome, everyone. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Pride and Trans Flag Raising ceremony. It is so wonderful to see so many people in person. It has been so long. And I also want to welcome everyone who's joining us virtually today. Oh, that's better. For those that don't know me, my name is Kimberly Daniels. I'm the interim manager of equity and student life, and my pronouns are she and her. This means that I have the honor of working very closely with the LGBTQ Resource Centre. I want to start today by sharing my social location. I come to this conversation with many intersectional identities. As a Black, cisgender, heterosexual Canadian woman, I recognize that many of the identities I have means that I carry my own privilege. I am also very mindful that recognizing and naming my privilege is only beneficial to equity-deserving communities, and specifically the 2S LGBTQ+ community, if I use that privilege to action change, and if I use my positionality for advocacy. But before I move into more of my reflection, I think it's important that I acknowledge the activism and the work done in the 2S LGBTQ+ community, and that this work has created a shift in how we view and understand dominant culture. I know that my own understanding of my own intersectional identity and much of the progress that has been made for Black liberation that I directly benefit from has come from the work of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. I also know that there is still so much work to do. In the weeks leading up to this event, I had a lot of conversations and a lot of reflections to discuss how I would approach this speech as a heterosexual and cisgender person. I contemplated on the term ally and what it means. I reflect today on the idea that ally is not a term that we can self-proclaim. Rather, it's a term that a community gives us if they feel we have truly shown up. Ally is a verb and not a noun. So this means to be an ally, you must take action. So before we move into more of our programming today, I want to make a call to action to all of the aspiring allies in the room and joining us virtually. That while today we mark Pride, and for many ways this is a celebration, this is also a reminder for aspiring allies to reflect on the spaces you occupy and the systems you're a part of. This means learning and unlearning unconscious bias to transphobia and homophobia. This means making intentional efforts to create safer spaces by reflecting on whose voice is at the table when you make decisions on policies, programs, and services. This means using inclusive language, attending workshops on how to be a better ally, and most of all, this means understanding systems of oppression and not being complacent to those systems. With that being said, I think it's also important to share the work of being an ally who takes action is not only the responsibility of the LGBTQ+ Resource Centre or the 2S LGBTQ+ Employee Resource Group, where we too often see those asks land. Humber as a collective needs to show up and reflect on personal and departmental steps that can be taken and actioned. And my hope is that this reflection becomes a regular practice and not just something that happens on June 1st or Pride Month. I will now welcome Kwe Buzino to the podium to share a land acknowledgement and some reflections from Indigenous education and engagement.
Thank you, Kimberly. So good morning, Minogajep. Thank you to those who are in attendance at the North Campus, and also to those who are tuning in virtually for today's event, the annual Pride and Trans Flag Raising. Ani Bojo, Kwe Gabadadze Gwen Dishnakas, Makwa Dodem, Gidigan Zibi Dunjaba. So for anyone who doesn't speak Anishinaabe, I just introduced myself in my language, and my name is Kwe Buzino. I am proudly from Garden River First Nation, and I am from the Bear Clan. I wanted to also introduce myself and mention that I am coming from the Robinson-Huron Treaty region of Northern Ontario. I am proud to share that my homelands are of the beautiful North Shore of Lake Huron, and I'm a guest to these shores of Lake Ontario. Here at the college, I'm the manager of Indigenous education and engagement. Outside of the college, I'm an auntie. I am here with you today to share a land acknowledgement in celebration of Pride Month. With the raising of the Pride and Trans flags, we're honoring the identities and self-expression of two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex members of our Humber community. As June is Pride Month and also National Indigenous History Month, it is a perfect time to appreciate and celebrate our unique identities. This month, I invite you to pause to recognize the history, heritage, and diversity within both the 2S LGBTQIA+ and Indigenous community. Whether you are a member of these communities or not, we all have a role in creating a just and equitable society free from discrimination and prejudice. So, since some of us are tuning in from different places, I'll ask you two questions and just think to yourself right now. Do you know the treaty region that you currently live on? And do you know the treaty that Humber College and the City of Toronto are on? Well, if you don't know the last one, I'm here to share with you. Before Humber was established in 1967, and before Toronto became a city in 1973, there was a treaty amongst the Indigenous nations for this region called the Dish with One Spoon. It meant that everyone in this region shares from the same resources or dish, and we only have one spoon. And don't cite me on this, but all nations who enter this region are invited into the agreement in the spirit of respect and peace. Now that invitation also extends to you. So Humber College is located within the traditional and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, known as the Dobagoak, the place of the Black Alders. This region is uniquely situated along the Humber River watershed, which historically provided an integral connection for Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples. Home to people of numerous nations, Etobicoke continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all. And with that, thank you and miigwech, and I'll hand it back to Kimberly, and thank you for joining us one last time.
Thank you so much, Quay, for that reflection. Now I'm going to call to the podium Matthew Harris, representing the 2S LGBTQ plus ERG.
Woohoo! Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the Pride and Trans Flag raising today, both online and in person at Humber College. My name is Matthew Harris, as Kimberly just said, along with Jasmine Singh, who's over there. I'm one of the two co-leads of Humber College's 2S LGBTQ plus employee resource group. First, I want to thank Quay for giving us that great land acknowledgement. Thank you to Kimberly Daniels, who is really an incredible ally, an incredible person who's done a lot of work, and I really, really want to acknowledge that. Sean Carson, Catherine Edgett, Kayla Prasad, Anna Rekvishvili, the ERG, and all of my fellow speakers, and everyone from the organizing committee for setting today up. I also want to thank Dr. Melanie Spence Arema, the Vice Provost from the University of Guelph Humber, for attending and representing that institution today. I can see you, there you are. Thank you. I thought I would introduce my talk today by giving a brief history of the Pride flag. The original Pride flag was designed and created by a collective of artists, including Gilbert Baker and Lynn Segerblom in San Francisco in 1978. The original Pride flag included 8 colors, and each of the colors had a different meaning. The meanings for the colors were as follows. Hot pink, there's hot pink on it. Hot pink equals sex. Red equals life. Orange, healing. Yellow, sunlight. Green, nature. Turquoise, magic. Indigo, serenity. And violet, spirit. What I find most fascinating about this is not just that the colors have meanings, but that most of the meanings don't really have anything to do with sexuality or gender identity. Sex is there, as it is important, but it is not everything. The colors instead represent what a fully lived life looks and feels like. One that is able to live, heal, to feel serene, spiritual and magical, and to be able to do it in sunlight and nature. Sadly, the gayest colors, hot pink and turquoise, sex and magic, had to be removed from the traditional flag for logistical reasons. It was hard getting hot pink fabric in the late 70s. Trans woman Monica Helms created the pink, blue, and white trans flag in 1999. In 2018, Daniel Quasar updated the traditional rainbow pride flag to produce the Progress Pride flag. This new flag incorporated the colors from the trans flag. It also added brown and black to represent people of color. The addition of these colors amplifies and refocuses the pride movement on the needs of these groups who, even though they have often been at the forefront of the pride movement in its fight for progressive change, have traditionally not received the full recognition that they've deserved. The Progress Pride flag and the trans flag are what we are raising here today. Since the 70s, the various pride flags have been a source of love and occasionally a source of annoyance. The traditional pride flag, as my husband, who was a designer, would say, is not chic. It is loud and bright and fun. But the power of these flags resides not in the actual configuration of the shapes and colors on their fabrics, but in what they represent overall. Pride flags, in all their gaudiness, have power and magic. When I go to a strange place and I spot one out of the corner of my eye, a physical change comes over me. Seeing that flag, I know that I can lower my shoulders and exhale a deep breath. I can once again, outside of my home, live a full and complete life. However, this also means that Humber is agreeing to an obligation when it raises these flags. Flags lose their power, their magic, if they are not defended and supported with real actions. According to Humber's 2019 Employment Equity Report, 43 employees at Humber identify as part of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. This is only 2.6% of the workforce, the full-time workforce. However, according to a 2021 report by Statistics Canada, 4% of the overall Canadian population identifies as part of this community, and that number is only growing. This gap between what Humber currently is and what it should be needs to be addressed. If these flags are to mean anything, they should indicate that Humber College is committed to welcoming, hiring, and retaining people from the 2S LGBTQ+ community. As we raise these flags today, we need to remember the promise and obligation of them. We need to do more to make Humber College a brave and inclusive place, a place where everyone, no matter their sexuality, their gender identity, their race, their religion, or their disability, can relax their shoulders, exhale a deep breath, and live a full, productive, and meaningful life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I'm now going to call to the podium Derek Stockley to speak on behalf of Humber College.
Thanks, Kimberly. And thank you for the opportunity to share a few words as we raise both the Tran and Pride flags today. I often share that I love Pride because it reminds me about hope and how hope resides somewhere between celebration and acts of resistance. Speaking of acts of resistance, I'm going to continue the history lesson that was begun by my colleague before me. And I was recently reading that the first documented LGBTQ uprising in U.S. history actually happened a decade before the Stonewall riots. And it took place in L.A. at a donut store in 1959, where a group of transgender women threw donuts and paper plates at police officers who had to retreat to get more. I wasn't sure in the document if they were getting more paper plates or if they were going to go get more police officers. But I find it interesting that the first documented act of resistance involves donuts and paper plates. On a continuum of acts of aggression, I think throwing paper plates is one step removed from a pillow fight. But I do hope one year we can honor this act of resistance through an act of catering here in the lobby. While we take some time to celebrate, it's worth noting that we've had our own acts of resistance here at Humber. In fact, we've set an ambitious goal to be one of the healthiest campuses in the country, alongside a commitment to creating an inclusive community. And we have many wonderful initiatives run with dedicated resources and demonstrated commitments to wellness, the Employee Resource Group being one, the Resource Centre being another. But as an institution, we also make mistakes. Sometimes I bear witness to those mistakes, and unfortunately, sometimes I'm part of those mistakes. But I'm also proud of how we respond to those mistakes as part of this journey, and grateful to be surrounded by colleagues, many of who are here right now, and leaders who aren't afraid to admit when we get it wrong, and more importantly, work hard to make it right when we do on this journey towards an inclusive, healthy campus. I shared before that these goals do not have a conclusion. These goals are a journey that never ends, and how these opportunities to celebrate along the way are important markers. So thank you once again for the privilege this year of sharing a few words, the opportunity to be involved in this celebration, and to reaffirm my own commitment to helping Humber become and continue to be an inclusive community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Derek. I'm now going to call to the podium Ms. Shonda Phillips, representing Ignite.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Mishana Phillips. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the student advocate over at Ignite. It's such an honor for me to be here today to stand and represent as the E2S LGBTQ Resource Centre launched their Pride flag raising this morning. Pride Month is a time for us to come together to continue to fight for equality and to work to address the bias and discrimination the 2S LGBTQ+ community continue to face. At Ignite, we continue to work towards being strong allies of the community and proud to be launching our Pride Scholarship for the second year in a row. This $1,000 scholarship will be granted to a total of 5 students for Humber College and the University of Guelph Humber, 2S LGBTQ+ community. With this scholarship, we hope to offer better support and alleviate some of the financial hardship disproportionately affecting this community. We invite you to visit our website for more information on how you can apply for this scholarship. We also invite you to share your Pride Month celebration all month long with us and tag us at Share Ignite so we can also celebrate as well. We also encourage you to continue to live your pride each and every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mashonda. And now I'm going to ask everyone to take a look out the window. Unfortunately, we couldn't be outside today due to the rain, but it's nice to have everyone gathered. We are hopefully queuing up our folks and friends at parking to help us raise the flags. I would like to thank all of the speakers today and also give a big thank you to the 2S LGBTQ+ ERG and the Pride Planning Committee. We all worked collaboratively to make this event possible, and once again, it's just so great to see everyone here in person as well. I also want to personally thank Kayla and Anna. They both work in the LGBTQ+ Resource Centre and take on the work of creating safer spaces for students 365 days of the year. And they've also put so much care and effort into creating a beautiful Pride Month. Unfortunately, Anna couldn't be with us today, but she did provide me with these words, and I'll now share them on behalf of Anna and on behalf of the LGBTQ+ Resource Centre. A lot has changed since June 28, 1969, when a small New York bar named Stonewall, the transgender and queer community refused to be raided by the police yet again and demanded fair treatment. Stonewall riots, as we now call them, became an inspiration to the early gay liberation movement. And in 1970, the first North American Pride Parade was held with the slogan, "Say it loud, gay is proud." Every June now, we celebrate and take pride in the 2S LGBTQ+ identities in many places across the world. Within the last 60 years or so, 2S LGBTQ+ communities have celebrated many victories. They have managed to change legislations, cultural codes, conversations at family dinners, and the minds and hearts of the millions. Yet, we are painfully aware that 2S LGBTQ+ communities, and particularly 2S LGBTQ+ youth, remain one of the most vulnerable parts of our society. Until today, 2S LGBTQ+ youth are at a higher risk of poverty, homelessness, physical and psychological violence, and mental health challenges. This is especially true for those members of the community who experience marginalization based on more than one identity marker, such as race, ability, social class, or gender identity. We are proud of our achievements at the Resource Centre, but we also know that they can still be taken away from us. Institutions of power can and have reversed progressive legislation or initiate new and discriminatory ones. We must continue to advocate for the needs of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. Celebrating our pride in our two-spirited lesbian, gay, trans, or queer identities every year is an act of political struggle. It brings the community together and shows our collective power. As Audre Lorde told us, without community, there is no liberation. But also, according to Audre Lorde, building a community is intentional work. Communities are strongest when they are acknowledged and celebrate their differences. And this is why, as we celebrate Pride, We should equally celebrate queer communities of color, trans, intersex, and disability queer folks who still navigate intersectional barriers in their everyday lives. We should also remember that Pride takes place on Indigenous lands. We believe that reclaiming Indigenous two-spirit identities and traditions is central to the ongoing process of reconciliation and decolonization of the LGBTQ+ movements. The LGBTQ+ Resource Centre wishes you all a happy Pride Month. We know from history that when thousands of folks stand together, united in their differences and in their pride, magical things can happen. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. I invite you all to stay and take part in some Pride trivia, learn about the Resource Centre and the ERG, enjoy some refreshments, and celebrate as a community. Thank you.